welcome to episode 76 of The Moment with the Munsons. Everything okay this morning?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really
What's
excited.
going on astrologically this morning?
Well,
you know you're my favourite astrologer, right?
That's not true.
So
I'm just the astrologer that you live with.
Those are not mutually exclusive.
Loads is happening this week. We've got what's known as a T-square between the Sun, Mars and Pluto, and that's getting stronger. The Mars and Pluto opposition is getting stronger and stronger and stronger all the way to Sunday, the 27th, the day of the new moon.
Right.
And it's something that's been building up since October. And it so if you felt really strong emotions around November the 3rd and also January the 3rd, this is like the final time that Mars and Pluto come into opposition, like they were on those two dates. It's a time of immense stress between surviving and thriving.
I've got my hand up for a question.
Go on.
What if you've been feeling intense emotions all the time and not just on those 2 days?
Well, no. I mean, they were the times when it was most exact. But during the end of October, right the way through to right now, Mars and Pluto have been in opposition. Pluto's all about how we can control our life, and the lengths we'll go to control our life and have it just. And
you've got Mars in that mix now.
And Mars is in opposition, which happens. It normally happens every 2 years or so.
Right.
And only for a week or a week and a bit, 2 weeks tops. But because of their retrograde patterns, they've been in this pattern since October, so 6 months. And it's created a lot of difficulty for people with a really strong Scorpio signature in their charts.
Very interesting. You used the word difficulty. And this is part of what we're talking about today, isn't it? How a context can be created for transformation.
Yeah,
that would be another way of defining difficulty, right?
Yes, I mean, these are times of transformation for sure. I mean, yes. Pluto is all about transformation, and he's about surrendering. Where we realize, like, we're trying to control our life to get it to work a particular way, and in the end, Pluto keeps like pushing us back to say, you don't get to have the control. I have the control. And so in the end, what normally happens with a Pluto type thing is that we surrender, and it's when we surrender that things start to work out. But then Mars is in opposition, and Mars is about taking action and defending yourself. So you've got, on the one hand, you're trying to control life to make it work, and on the other hand, you're also wanting to make your life work by taking action. And they're just, and they're both Pluto and Mars are the rulers of Scorpio. So anyone with a really strong Scorpio energy, like their sun, their moon, or their ascendant, that includes both of us. It's like there's something going on in the psyche. It's like, how do you move forward?
I'm feeling all of those gestures you've just made, like. Yeah. And I don't I don't mean that in any way to feel sorry for myself. I just think it's fascinating.
Well, it's through these challenges. Sorry, I keep playing with my hair. I can't it looks really fuzzy today. I haven't done anything different with it. I think it might be the atmosphere,
the humidity
here at the moment. It's very, very damp. But the real sort of transformation that happens through this kind of aspect is, it pushes you to your knees, so something new comes out of it.
Which brings us to part 3.
Yeah, this is part 3.
Is this the Carl on his knees mini series?
So we started on Thursday, episode 74, and you mentioned right at the end of that episode that you felt like you wanted to apologize to all the women in your life.
Yes.
And then we had episode 75 on Friday, where you started to unpack
that.
Yeah,
and it went in a direction that I didn't think it was going to go.
Right.
And by the way, I'm calling it the Carl on his knees apologizing mini series. I want to say,
I wonder if it could be released as a mini series. You might need to do an extra.
This is it. We're thinking this is the 3rd and final episode of series within the series within the season.
Yeah.
And I want to start by saying, oh my God, this guy sounds so self-indulgent. This is the moment with the Munsons, and he's just talked about himself for the last 3 episodes. I'd like to explain or give some sort of background to that. The reason I'm talking about this is because I honestly hope it might be helpful to other people. I'm not just bearing my soul for the sake. Well, I am for the sake of my own edification and unfoldment, if you like. But when I talk about these things, I do hope it's of some use to other people, because because of what you've talked about, the astrological context. Some people will be going through similar things, and I think we kind of need each other, don't we, to reflect with and to look upon together and to collaborate on this age of transformation that we find ourselves in, if that's indeed how we see it.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. I mean, I think we all play these games. We all have similar situations, different names, different places, different times. But, the experiences that you were talking about on Friday in particular, in terms of male role models.
Yes.
What you learnt from your fathers. I say that because you had a stepfather as well as your actual dad.
Yes.
And then also from your mom, and how that translates into our relationships. We're all doing that, aren't we?
Well, and it seems that we are in I was going to call it the auditorium, or under the magnifying glass, in the Petri dish. These things are coming under analysis, aren't they?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there will be astrological portents for that, and I acknowledge that on the one hand, it's it's what you make it, isn't it? It's what you look at, what you focus on is what you get. But it would appear there is a growing number of people who do have this same interest of being introspective and extrospective, if that's even a word, to look at what the trend is at the moment, and as it's scrolling on the screen there, the new reality. That's what we're doing here on New Reality TV, and checking in with each other to see how it's going. I think something is afoot, and that's only if that's an effect created by several hundreds or thousands of people coming together to remark upon the fact that there is a transformation afoot, and we're in this together, and we want to have a look at it.
Absolutely. I mean, given that we're talking somewhat about the effects of how we've been living our whole lives based on our childhoods and our parents, who are our authority figures. Like right now, there appears to be a lot of transformation going on around the world, like it or loathe it, across all different countries. There are people who are falling in love and also falling out with their governments, who are a form of authority. We grow up and then we also hand over authority to everyone else. So I do think this is a massive
projections
issue.
Are being questioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
And assumptions are being questioned.
I just want to say, I have no idea what Carl's going to say, even though I'm his wife.
You invite this situation, don't you? And we have had a bit of a spicy morning as well, have we not?
Oh, it was more playful from my perspective.
Yes, but as a sensitive Cancerian, whilst you're stomping all over me with your Sagittarian hooves, it was just playfulness. There I am, a crushation.
Okay.
Not really. Not. I mean, it has been playful, and this is what we might end up getting to talk about this morning.
Is this really where you want to go?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's going to be my headphone slam moment for today.
Seriously.
And I walk. Well,
oh my goodness, talk. Get this off your chest.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
I just wanted to say, I have no idea what Carl is going to say. He said on Saturday morning, I need a third show.
Without any more.
And I've been trying to get a little heads up. And he's like, no, let's wait for the show.
I do find that the confessional nature of this setup is quite helpful.
Okay.
It's also unhelpful because what I was going to say last time didn't come out as what I thought I was going to say. But other stuff came out, and we did get some nice feedback, didn't we, about it?
Absolutely. So come on then. Where would you like to start?
So the idea of apologizing to significant women partners, my mirror image, my outer feminine, if you like, that began in a conversation that we had. That I had a memory of my past relationships, of not being able to remember good things about them.
Yeah.
And we very nearly talked about that, didn't we? But we didn't get there, did we? We went into toxic masculinity and what it's like to be a young man and have role models and then challenge the role models and so on. So that's where it went on the last episode.
But that's the thing that's always surprised me, is when you talk about your past and any past relationships, you can't remember anything positive about them.
Yeah.
I've always been really surprised by that, because you've been with people for years and years and years, and obviously
and hearing it said out loud,
the truth.
No, it can't be, can it? And hearing it said out loud sounds so savage. And I wonder why it is that I have such a firm and I mean positive in the sense of definite, not positive in the sense of upbeat or uplifting. But yeah, that's how I have it. That's how I saw myself seeing it, which is an important distinction because I now have a little bit of freedom around it. And this is in terms of sharing this such that it might be useful for us as a group to talk about as a community and what's in there. To anybody who has a knee-jerk definite reaction that like that was how it was and that's all there is to it, that's the beginning of knowing something's not quite right, isn't it? You know, I'm quite certain that how I see the past is that not, you know, and it shocks me to say it out loud even. That's why I think this sort of confessional situation is quite good. Having thought about it and having talked about it with you for a little bit, this idea of me thinking that no good came from the past is insane, isn't it? But that's how I remember it. Yeah. And so the next question would be, well, why do I remember it like that? Which is a great injustice and unkindness to anyone who's been in my past, right?
Absolutely.
For one thing.
Yeah.
And on that basis, it can't be right. So why do I and at that point, I take responsibility for having it a certain way, which I think is unhealthy and dysfunctional. So, you know, that's by way of another apology to people in my past with whom or about and over whom I'm thinking it was just bad. It didn't work out. Therefore, it was bad and no good came from it. That's insane said out loud, isn't it?
Yeah, it appears to be.
What were you just thinking?
Well, on Friday, you revealed some of the tendencies of all of your parents.
Oh,
and
right,
one of your parents has a very my way or the highway shut door policy that if something happens that is not to the liking, the door comes up, the wall comes up. And we were talking about your Mr. Freeze.
Well, that's how I've tended to be in relationships at the bad times and then subsequently end them.
So it's like you're hot or you're not.
When you're hot, you're hot. When you're not,
you're not.
Yes,
that's it. Yes. When you're hot, you're hot. And when you're not, you're not.
Yes.
And it's like you've got to...
Well, that's what I want to apologize for. I mean,
you're
how horrible is that for the people you're in a relationship with?
Exactly.
If you're one of those people that does that, I'm beginning to realize that the horror that inflicts upon people to shut down on them. And then eventually, you know, in the intransigence of thinking there's no future in a relationship to shut down like that. And thank God I've known some women who've been kinder to me than I you know, I sort of stereotyping. I think that's in the nature of women to be kinder than men, generally speaking, and more open to talking things through and exploring things. And it might be quite a male trait I'm talking about, although not exclusively, obviously. But what's becoming apparent to me in considering why did I to some extent think of it like that? The horror of it has dawned on me.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I'd love to say is, you know, I know you to be a really kind person. So even though you said all these people that you've been in relationships with are beautiful and kind, please don't forget that you are too. It's just you've got a mechanism there that when it is activated is not very kind. But that doesn't mean to say you're an unkind person.
And I have a particular way of remembering things. That's where something useful could be in this conversation.
Yeah, and
why do we remember things in a certain way? What are the summary judgments we come up with and why about things?
Well, part of that, I think, is the role of the unconscious mind is to keep you safe.
Yes.
And so if your unconscious mind thinks you'll be kept safe by completely
cutting
off, it will create a program to allow you to completely cut off.
Yeah.
Which is presumably what you've
like
learned.
A fuse. Yeah, like a breaker.
Like a trip. Yeah.
Trip switch.
A trip switch.
Yes.
So you've got like an unconscious trip switch. Like for instance, like we might not understand why some people's unconscious programming leads them to drink alcohol.
Yes.
However, that might be something that's going on in their unconscious mind, because to not drink alcohol would actually be more dangerous.
And it's not about the alcohol.
Yeah.
It's about what's given them by that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for instance, they might be more unsafe to themselves and cause more harm to themselves if they were fully conscious of how they were feeling.
But that's better than.
It's better than. So your unconscious mind has got one core premise, and that's to keep you alive.
Yeah.
So this goes really like to the core and to the heart.
Yeah.
Like,
and
how do you stay safe?
Well, what I realized in my earlier sort of inquiry into it is it's obvious in a way where it comes from. And that is in having a core belief of not being good enough, doesn't it? Of not, of nothing works out. I can't do this. And I'm not very good at these things, as in relationships or anything. If you have a very fundamental belief that you're not very good, full stop, which extends obviously to not very good at X, Y, or Z, and that would include relationships. It would therefore, the mindset of like, I'm not very good would create a mindset of like, well, no good came of that. And how sad is that?
Yeah, that's one way of
that's how I saw it. That's why I think that.
Yeah.
And another part of this is like, oh my God, I may have gone to my grave never questioning this, and having it as one of my sort of personal articles of faith that everything in the past didn't work and therefore it's of no worth.
Yeah,
that is a thought form. That is a sentiment of somebody who doesn't think they're very good, and by extension, I suppose that life isn't very good.
Oh, so much I want to ask you.
Okay.
So, the first one is, whose voice is that says it's never going to work? It never works. I'm not good enough.
It's a learned childhood pattern.
But whose voice is it?
A parental voice.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the first distinction. It's not your voice, but it's one that you've taken on.
I think it's what we do. We so what happens? What
I'm not blaming you or telling you off.
No, not at all. I'm not hearing it. I'm not.
Okay.
I've got plenty of time to take it personally, which I'm not at the moment. But what I see happening, the dynamics here, are that you're subject to your parenting.
Yeah.
And your parenting is turbocharged by your schooling.
Yeah.
To some extent or other. And it might be that you go to a school or you're in the company of teachers who don't mirror your parenting style. But I can tell you from my own experience that my mum especially had very high expectations for me. So the meaning I made from that is, if I didn't meet those expectations, I wasn't a very good child. Okay, so because that's how I received it, is you should be like this, and then when you're not like that you can come to a certain sort of conclusion. And then I took that to school, a school which she chose and was keen to put me into, so that I could reach the high bar which she believed in. The school then, actually, it's amazing, because the first school I went to, I was head boy and a prefect, and I was a model pupil, and I got the prize in my final year, and that must have been great for my mum, and it was quite nice for me, and it was all I knew. But then when I went over from junior school into senior school, which you would call high school in the United States, I couldn't keep that up. I was in the company of people who I thought were so much better than me and more able academically, but more able to apply themselves to the school regime, from which I was falling out of love. And then I gave up in that process. I gave up being as good as I had been in junior school. And it was like, okay, I need a new strategy here to cope with this, which is, this system sucks. What's being asked of me is ridiculous, and I refused to engage in it. So I became a rebel at that point. And so in the absence of seeing that or being able to understand that as a teenager, I just went into forming an identity, which is what it's what if I'd had access to alcohol and thought that was a good way of doing it, it would have been that. But I was looking for some sort of coping mechanism. And again, in that situation, it's like, I'm out of here. I had to keep going to school, but I wasn't there, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I was with our eldest on And no, it was last week when we were in art gallery, and I said to my eldest, God, you know what? When I was at your age, I would go to school and then I would stay on the bus and go to art galleries and museums in my school uniform, so that nobody would ask me. It wouldn't look out of place, but I'd be playing truant. I wouldn't go to school. I'd go to somewhere where I wouldn't be questioned in my school uniform, and just please myself doing things I enjoyed, and I just checked out. So there's a pattern, isn't there? It's the checking out. It's the rebel checking out. This isn't for me. Goodbye, with no recourse to support or being valued or anything. The horse, the horse has bolted. Yeah.
There's so much I want to ask and comment on. Sorry. Like, first of all, as rebelliousness goes, people are probably thinking you're out there like doing drugs and smoking and stuff.
I was at an art gallery.
You're an art gallery.
I was a hardcore rebel, imbibing Western civilization as my drug of choice.
Yeah, I mean that's quite funny. See,
and smart, right?
Yeah, you were
bunking off in your school uniform at places where there were other kids in school uniform.
Yeah,
boom.
Yeah. So you really weren't wanting to cause any pain or hurt to anyone or harm. Whereas
no, that wasn't
a lot of rebels also are.
Yeah, I wasn't interested. I just wanted to be left alone.
So it was found
the easiest way to do it.
So it was a coping mechanism that allowed you to be left alone.
Yes.
The other thing is, like, obviously you were, like, when you were in the school that you understood because it fitted your programming that you were raised with, you rose to the top.
Yeah.
You mentioned,
I never told you that either, have I?
No.
Okay.
You mentioned that when you went to,
I've only told you about how bad I was at school, not how good I was, I think.
Yeah, I've never known you to be good at school.
At the best. In junior school, the best.
I'm not surprised by that, because I mean, you are a wordsmith, you're a writer, and I
wasn't at 11, I don't.
No, but I mean, you're very, very skilled with words. I'm not surprised.
Do you know what? Do you know the reason why I think I was top? And this is another realization.
Go on.
I think the headmaster felt sorry for me. And again, that's a giveaway, isn't it?
Seriously?
Yeah, my mum and dad were splitting up when I was at that age.
Yeah.
And I thought he felt sorry for me because he had an experience of my chaotic parenting. And my theory about that is that he felt sorry for me, not that it was on merit.
So you can't accept
I've
that.
Never seen that before.
So you can't accept that you were good enough.
Naturally,
when you were good enough, for that prize. You couldn't even.
No, it was for some other reason. And I've only just seen that.
Well, well done for seeing that.
Yeah. And that's why I share it, because what has really surprised me in the last few weeks, and if you like, in this period of my life, I thought I'd figured quite a few things out. And maybe it is it chimes with the astrological picture you've
and
created.
you've just gone through your second Saturn return as well.
I had no idea I had so much more to see in myself. And again, that's why I share it, because it's like when we think we're figured out, it's probably quite a good sign that we're not.
Yeah.
So that's another realization I want to share. Is like where there's certainty, be careful. Where there's utter certainty about things. Our personal articles of faith. And if you think you're figured out, that's probably another good sign, isn't it, that you might not be.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is just the beginning, that it's like you've started to pull the scab off.
Yank at the loose thread.
More will come out because you've made it okay to release these things. I think it's great.
Yeah. Oh no, part 4 looms then.
Yeah, it's gonna
the
be
mini series runs and runs.
The Carl month.
It's gonna be 10. It's gonna be 10 seasons of 6 episodes.
Of you and I sorting ourselves out. Yeah. Which could be helpful.
Welcome to our therapy session.
Therapy in action.
I really hope it's useful to you too.
One thing that's struck, when you were telling me that story about how you went to a school, like a private school, and all of a sudden it was more competitive. I mean, I had that as well when I went to a grammar school, but you mentioned that you weren't able to kind of keep up, but that maybe you weren't good enough, which is what you made it mean.
Yes.
But what I would counter that with is that the other people who were at that school were probably, they had a different programming running.
Oh, they did.
They had a programming of expecting to do well and expecting to go to that school.
Yes, and
the
their
rebels
parents
that you
had been to similar schools.
Exactly.
And they were middle class. They were. The inventor of the internet went to my school.
Yeah.
The Berners-Lee guy, he went to my school, and it was that kind of school where, you know, these were great. It's like Chariots of Fire. You know, these are sports people. These were brainy people who, you know, the best of them went to Oxford and Cambridge.
Yeah.
And some of them just naturally dropped into that and went with it.
Of course.
For me, it was like, my parents didn't do that.
Well, you didn't come from that environment.
I didn't come from that environment.
So you weren't prepared for it.
So guess who my friends were?
The rebels, who also slipped in,
yes.
who didn't belong to the system.
And this is what my mum was told at one of the parents' evenings, like, when you know, I'm not happy about the company Carl is keeping. But of course I kept the company of people who
understood
I felt comfortable with. Yes.
Who also had chaotic family lives.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
And who also suffered from maybe a lower self-esteem at that time.
Not that you know it at school, do you?
No.
Because at school there's an intense game to cover up insecurities, isn't there? Of you know, dressing a certain way or being a certain way, which also happened. Yeah. Yeah.
This does feel like it's going to. This hasn't touched the sides, has it?
Oh, it has a little bit.
This is going to come into another
scrape.
Another few episodes, I think.
Right.
But it's not going to be consecutive because we're talking with Tasha tomorrow. Tasha Salinas,
which will be a blessing to some people. And
well, Tasha's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, she's amazing, and I'm sure she'll have something to add to this conversation.
And honestly, only the interest is in sharing this because it might be useful now. You know, I'm not interested in telling my sad story about the past. Why it's here and why you're encouraging me to talk about it, I think, is because of the power it might have now.
Yeah.
Not to tell the sad story of the past, which is part of what it might sound like.
May I share something with you as your like living, loving partner? Hearing about, like, I've always known you that you don't have any. First of all, you don't really remember much from the past. But
well, that's another sign, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
But then the memories that you do have about your ex situations, you know, are coloured with dismissal and well, just like negativity.
Yes.
I live with the fear that when you suddenly go,
oh, you might be reported in the same way.
I will be.
You might join that.
I know that if ever I know that if ever I find myself in the same company as your exes,
yes,
everything that we've done together, all the love that we've had together, all the joy,
yes,
all the successes, all the fun, all the sharing,
yes,
all the richness,
yes,
all the sexy fun, like all of it, the entirety of our relationship is going to get coded with that, and that fills me with dread. It really does.
Yes,
I mean, it hurts. It hurts my heart to say that.
Yes, and that's why I'm talking about it. I would like to get access to that dark place that could cause that, and I don't know any other way of doing that other than inflicting it upon. Well, but yeah, some people might say I should go to a therapist to talk about it, but I'm doing it here. We're doing it, aren't we? We're talking about, and you know, I think that's a useful thing, and I would invite anyone who wants to join in that to do that as well. You know, let's collaborate on our going there, if you like, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about going there, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Into that dark spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
For you know, we're going into that dark spot to find light to shine on the path forward. Yeah. If that's not a weird thing to say. Yeah.
No, I think this is great. And
I think it's been more upsetting for you than me so far, hasn't it? On this particular.
No, I mean, like, I think anytime you're trying to support somebody that you also know has a program that might exclude you.
That's why people go to therapists and not talk to their partners about these things. Yes.
So thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today, and catch you tomorrow with Tasha. Bye for now.
Ciao.